Our topic here at 9:30 is the Virtual Production Network. We've got representatives from Cube Studio, Stray Vista Studios, and Final Pixel with us on the panel. So a little bit about this discussion. We're talking about the power of a community working together when it comes to virtual production. So think virtual studios, production companies, all collaborating, all pushing innovation, new technologies, new approaches, new methodologies, and just how kind of the sum
It had
of all
been
parts.
4 very long years.
Uh-oh. Wow, is that the voice of God? That's awesome. No, but really excited. Before we get started, I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves. Manisha, why don't we start with you?
Sure. My name's, that's loud, Monisha Madison Lever, and I'm a virtual production producer at Final Pixel.
I'm Nate Strayer. I'm the owner of Stray Vista Studios. It's a virtual production studio in Austin, Texas.
And I'm James Hexley. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cube Studio. We're a virtual production studio based just outside London in the UK.
All right, so I've got a ton of great questions. Before we get started with those, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your backgrounds? Monisha, why don't you start?
Sure, yeah. I started producing actually on the client side. So I started at a TV network working in on-air marketing, and then switched over to the vendor side, did a little post-production, and then live action production. And I've sort of just switched around a bunch of times as new things came up, and I followed my curiosity ultimately to virtual production with Final Pixel.
Yeah, so I was in Los Angeles directing mostly music videos for a long time, and then decided to try to kind of get into the narrative space. So I did a feature film, and then that led me to Austin, Texas, where the opportunity to open up a studio came about, and then kind of looked into the technology of virtual production and decided that that's the route that we wanted to go.
And I actually come from a production background, so I was originally a photographer, but then got into production, and we've had a production company running out of London for the last 7 years. And then kind of around 2020, pandemic time, we kind of started looking at how we could still do really good campaigns, even though travel was on the off. And we stumbled across virtual production and have been doing it since then.
So 2 of you are virtual studio owners, 1 virtual production producer. Talk a little bit about what interested you in virtual production. James, why don't you start?
The big thing for us was when we first got into it, it was the ability to go to multi-locations kind of in the space of 1 or 2 days. So we actually had a brief we pitched for, which we needed to be on a beach, we needed to be in an office, and we needed to be in someone's house. At the time of the pandemic, there was no chance of doing that. So we soon built a condo on Unreal and started playing around with that, and decided let's build a volume in the end. So we actually came out here last year with the ambition to meet people and open a stage, and the stage opened 2 weeks ago. So it's pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, coming from music videos going to narrative, you don't have the largest budgets on your first feature film. So, experiencing making a feature with a budget that kind of limited the scope of what the film could be, what locations we could go in, how big the movie could be, I really started looking into VFX and how can you, kind of cheat some of this stuff. And so just as a filmmaker, I looked at virtual production as a means to make, the scale of anything a lot larger than what your budget may have allowed before virtual production became a thing.
So I was working mostly in advertising and feeling kind of burned out on it and doing the same thing over and over again for different clients. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who owned a production company just to kind of talk about things and see what she was up to. And she told me about Final Pixel. They had opened up this virtual production company during the pandemic, like so many others. And I'd never heard of virtual production at all. She sent me a bunch of videos, and I was just immediately energized by all the possibilities and how it just unleashes creative ideas. And coming as a producer, it was like very clearly a problem-solving tool. So all of those issues that I'm constantly having to walk clients through of, you don't have enough time to go to all those locations. You don't have enough hours in the day to get all those shots. It all of a sudden was possible with virtual production. And so I just jumped on board.
That's awesome. All right, so we've talked about kind of your past, what got you into virtual production. Let's talk about the present, the future. How are you currently using virtual production methodologies? Nate, why don't you start?
Yeah, so at Stray Vista, we're primarily focused on client work. So there are, a number of, currently right now, there's a number of agencies in Austin, Texas shooting mostly commercials. So our use case right now is mostly commercial work, which when you have a 60-second spot that needs to go to 6 locations, um, you know, it's a lot easier to shoot that in one location, all with the wall, and not have to move around, do a bunch of location moves, have process trailers for the car stuff. So for us, it's right now it's commercial work that we're using it for, and I think that it's a really good use case, especially for cars. We find a lot of companies are ditching the process trailers and the time it takes to go out and shoot this stuff, shut down roads, go out and do it in cities and whatnot, and just coming to the virtual production studios where you have those natural reflections, you have the ability to do it all without moving the car at all.
Yeah, we've kind of seen in the first few weeks that it's actually really wide, the spectrum of what people want to do in the studio. So the commercial spots is pretty obvious, and everyone thinks that's a great idea when it comes to automotive and stuff like that. But we've also had enterprise businesses come through that want to kind of do some centralized content with their C-suite people, put that all in multi-location, multi-city, and bring them in for one day. And then also sports broadcasters, so them looking at moving away from some of the green screen studios that they have and being able to just roll in and roll out and shoot specific shows. And yeah, I think a lot of stuff, even just specific features. People coming and just saying like it could be 1 or 2 scenes, or 40% of my production is suitable to be shot on a volume, and it would save us a lot of hassle of driving around the country and across the pond on a plane. So yeah, we're seeing a real mix, and I think that's exciting. I think it's the wider the spectrum, the more people are interested in it. The more people are interested in it, the more we can get the word out there of what VP can actually do.
So Final Pixel, we don't own any studios ourselves. Our primary work is in the virtual art department, and then production services, partnering with awesome stages like our View partners. And we do TV, film, but a lot of advertising also. We definitely see that as like the next wave. TV and film have really embraced virtual production, and I think advertisers are slowly getting there. It's a lot of brands who we've met with that have retail spaces or restaurant spaces, and they're losing money because they have to shut down their franchises to shoot, or they're shooting in the middle of the night. And so that's a really great opportunity where we're showing them virtual production can actually in the long run save them a lot of money, because we can build that environment. They can future-proof it by customizing it as the brand grows and do it all in a studio instead of having to shut down.
So at View, we have the privilege of working with all 3 companies, 2 virtual stages, 1 production company. Final Pixel is actually a trusted production partner of ours, and then Cube and Stray Vista are part of the View network. We helped engineer, build, helped operate some of the studios that are part of the network. So I want to shift into the network and talk about kind of what that means to each of you from a studio and a production company standpoint. Why don't you talk about just what it means to be part of the network and what advantages you feel come from that?
The network was super attractive to us. I mean, first of all, when looking for a partner when we were building our stage, there's a lot of stuff to consider, and we wanted someone who had a lot of experience in doing that. So View was a natural partner with the experience you've been doing it and the amount of stages that you'd built in the US. For us, as being the first studio outside of America, in London and in Europe, it gave us a great opportunity for our global clients to have that access to a standardized network of studios. So being a trusted brand means that our multinational clients and companies, they feel comfortable knowing that it's powered by View, and the fact that they can then go to Austin, they can then go to Tampa, they can go to these other stages and know they're going to get that consistent experience, and that there's a consistent standardized technology, instead of a bit of the Wild West when people are trying to find all these things. And also, I don't think people sometimes have the time to go out and scout loads of studios and even really know about what makes them and what they do. So we can just come in and say, look, this is how it works. These is the whole network. You can shoot both in the UK and in Europe, all the way across from east to west coast of America. I think that's super attractive for companies.
Yeah, I think that's a good point with locations, but then also for us, a really attractive part of the network was with anything that's innovative, you want to have as many people around that you can bounce ideas off of as possible, and you want to work together to really, rise the tide to raise all the ships. So being part of the View Network, we really feel like we have people that we can reach out to, contact, and say, hey, we're running into this idea that we want to try to accomplish. Have you guys dealt with this before? And together we can figure out how to do new things. We can figure out how to do the things that we need to do baseline and just get them down. And the experience that View brought to us in that area was super helpful. So for us, like the collaboration of being able to reach out to James, being able to reach out to Final Pixel, and have VAD departments and things that we might not have in house, but we have access to and can work with. That's super valuable to us.
Yeah, for us, it's just options for our clients, really good options, trusted ones, exactly with locations. A lot of our clients don't want to shoot in the major markets, or they have talent that's in Austin and they can't get the talent to fly to LA. So being able to bring our clients to a place that we know it's going to care for them the same level that we do, and bring the same level of quality in the work that we promise to our clients is just super beneficial.
So there are so many different variables and elements involved in virtual production. You guys have talked about the benefits of the network, but also of each other. Talk a little bit about, I guess, the confidence, the comfort that comes from, if a question comes up, maybe you don't know the answer to it, or something technical that, may be off topic, like the value of having not only View, but, others that are in this space that you can collaborate with, that you can work across the aisle with. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think already, like I flew out to Austin and went to a Nate stage, so we're all kind of interconnecting with each other within the network as well. And I think that's great. We're sharing ideas. In the last couple of days, the amount of things we're bouncing off each other when we're just having a coffee or a drink, and I think that's what it's all about. We're still writing the rules, and every time you go into a volume, you're learning something new, right? So it's nice to be able to then be a part of a network where you can go, oh, by the way, we came across this when we shot this kind of thing, and being able to just call the guys up and say, look, how did you handle something like this? And they go, oh, we did it this way. And I think that kind of experience means that we're all going to get better at the stuff that we create.
Yeah, this is also the first time you're able to send somebody a set and have them pull it up, in another continent. So you can send the Unreal environments, you can send what you're putting on your wall between all of our studios, and I think that amount of collaboration is brand new, and it's huge to be able to really figure out how to do this right between all of us, not just an isolated stage in either Austin, Texas, or the UK. It's a network that is very collaborative.
I think virtual production's still in its infancy, and so we're all still trying to figure out what this thing is and what can we do and how do we push the boundaries of what we already know. And that's where the collaboration is just so helpful. So if someone calls and has this wild idea, we can say, yeah, we can do that, and then call some friends and figure out the best way to get it done. And I think that's just the way to keep pushing the industry.
What has surprised you most as it relates to kind of partnering with you and the idea of a virtual production network?
I think the camaraderie has surprised me the most. Nice. Coming out of traditional production, it's been around for so long, and I think people hold things tight to the chest a lot for traditional production. They don't want to tell their secrets. They don't want to say how they got there. Then you kind of have to figure it out on your own, and everyone's by themselves. And this is the complete opposite of that. It's very much about sharing ideas, sharing how you got there, and helping each other.
Yeah, I think the excitement to share and the excitement to build together and not... It's like a healthy competition aspect of it too, of what can we do to push it forward, and how can we all do that together. But then, for instance, like we had a client come in that wanted to do some stuff with the Air Force, and we texted View and like, hey, do you guys have any F-17s, F-16s? And they were sent over right away, and we could put them up on the wall for this tour. And that's just a cool aspect of it that we're able to collaborate and share. And like you said, it's very open. And it's a lot of camaraderie, so yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I think it's all about community and the connection side of things. And like what Nate was saying, you will get a client that wants to come in and say, I want to have a tour, and by the way, this is my interest. And you're like scrambling around looking on Marketplace, but you can kind of just call up one of your friends in the network or speak to View, and then they go, oh yeah, by the way, we'll drop that over to you now, and you can kind of think on your feet. But I think for us as well, when we transitioned from a production company to having our own studio, is there was loads of like guidance all the way through, and then by the time the stage was actually built and we were onboarded in a matter of couple of days, we were up and running doing tours, and getting people in and out of there. We were set up for success, and I think, it's not like you're in there just kind of giving it a go. From off the bat in the first week, we were able to literally look like a serious outfit, be backed by a serious outfit, and people were taking us seriously, and I think that's key.
So we've talked a little bit about the past, what got you guys interested in virtual production and just your backgrounds, present reality of what you're doing in virtual production, how you're part of the network. I do want to talk about the future of storytelling, the future of virtual production. As we segue into that, I'd like to have Nate kind of prompt a video that we're going to share. So Nate, talk a little bit about the film virtual project that you guys were part of.
So as a stage, we want to partner with different production companies like Final Pixel and people who can come in and really utilize the technology. So we partnered with Cloud House. They're a studio in Austin, Texas, and we put together a little, commercial for nothing specific, like no specific studio, but just for virtual production in general and showing what virtual production can do. So I think we're going to hit play here and watch this.
Is about to die.
Cut! That's it. I'm calling it for weather, guys. Jesse, let's take it to the trailer. Yeah, Pete, we're not doing it today. There's lightning on our heels. Tell Keanu he doesn't have to come in today. Let's get the horses back in the trailer. Greg, no smoking on set.
We don't need a palm tree.
Filmmakers, I know you fantasized about being able to control the weather on set, but what if I told you it's actually possible?
You know what? I don't need a lawsuit. I'm done, Pete.
And what if I told you you could bring the perfect location, like this one, to your own backyard instead of flying across the globe? Well, with virtual production, you can. I don't need to be a real doctor to tell you that working in a hospital is hard. Well, so's filming in one. Oof, that's rough. But with virtual production, you can control the world instead of it controlling you. Talk about a game changer. And just imagine for a second, being able to shoot any combination of locations from opposite ends of the globe, all in one day, in one spot.
And when life calls you out to venture into the unknown, to answer that desperate call of your aching soul, but also to shoot a sweet car commercial, it's like you can't even tell it's not real, except for the fact that I'm literally telling you right now. I mean, look at that humongous LED wall. We know you really don't like filming in the desert, so this should make you think.
What if you didn't have to venture out? At all.
That was great. That was really great. One more just like that.
Hey, Rick, ready for one more?
It sounds good, Pete. All right. All right, here we go, everybody. Places. Let's roll camera.
Awesome. Well done. So tell us a little bit about the production, Nate.
Yeah, so that took, it was supposed to take 2 days, but there was a massive ice storm during that whole thing, which
In
it's awesome.
Austin?
You can't even, yeah, I know. But so it ended up taking 3 days because we cut one of the days in half. But yeah, we wanted to show, the director Corey really wanted to show locations that are really tough to get into. So like a hospital, it's hard to close down a hospital to shoot in. That's an extremely hard task to do. Going from a mountaintop to a hospital in one day is almost impossible. And then the driving stuff, like I mentioned earlier, is something that we really wanted to show off. So we wanted to put together a piece that kind of had all the elements of what we think virtual production is really good for. And that's what came out of it.
That's awesome. Well done. So we're going to open it up to questions here in a second. I've got one last topic and question, which we alluded to before the video, but I want to talk about the future of virtual production. What are you guys excited about as it relates to just the capacity for great storytelling with virtual production? Monisha, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm excited for the technology to get in the hands of more creatives, filmmakers and advertisers, and just get them more comfortable with it so that it just can unleash the creativity and do things we haven't even seen yet. I think right now it's still like tiptoeing into it and people are testing the waters and they're, just getting their feet wet. But I think once everyone does it and sees how beneficial it is, I think we'll start pushing what we see being shot on the volumes.
Yeah, it's same for me. I love when somebody comes into our studio and says, "Is this possible?" And well, we haven't thought about that before, but yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a go. Or even just scrolling through Instagram and seeing what people are doing with this technology. It's growing so fast, and the use cases for it are kind of infinite, and people are always finding new ways to use it. So for me, like, the future is just, it's exciting to me to see how this is going to be utilized to change the film industry. So
yeah, we have a motto that's kind of saying it's limitless in a way. So we just want to really see how the creatives get hold of it and really push those boundaries. But as it's always an evolving technology, and the more and more people that are coming through the door and then playing around with it and seeing what they can do, is, like I said, you're learning something every time you're in the stage, right? So it's just exciting to see that evolve. And every week we're starting to see some really good content being pushed out from the network and from content creators around the world. So where we're going to be in a year's time is going to be an exciting time to place to be, right? Because it's a big topic here this year at NAB, and if we can just get it in more hands of more production companies and creators, I think we're going to see some amazing stuff in the next 12 months.
Really good stuff. So let's open it up to questions. My waterfalls. If you've got a question, raise your hand. We'll come and find you with a microphone.
Hello? Oh, loud. So for the virtual art department stuff, working with commercials, have you guys found any kind of approaches or techniques that have fit within the really fast commercial and advertising timelines, like especially short lead times?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest barriers, because no advertising agency wants to spend 8 weeks in pre-production. They have like a week or two. Really what we're doing is a lot of education on the workflow and helping them, from the producer's standpoint, adjust their workflow, because they might not have a lot of lead time traditionally, but then they do a ton of post time. And they're very used to spending 8 weeks or more in post. So we're getting in with them early and trying to show them that you can produce your commercial in the exact same amount of time. You're just going to spend more time in pre-production. And the value of that is that when you show up on set and your client shows up on set, they know exactly what they're getting, and you're avoiding all of those last-minute fire drills. And I think they're starting to see that benefit, and then concepting and planning around it. So it's a longer lead time, certainly. When they come and they want to do it, they're ready to go. For those instances, we're also building out a virtual backlot of environments that we've already created, we've tested on walls in different studios, so that we do have more of a turnkey option for some agencies, and building things that we know they tend to need in the advertising space, like kitchens and living rooms.
I think that's a really good point too. It's the education of the VP team is another department in film. So your virtual production supervisor needs to be as included in the pre-pro as any other department head, and the virtual artists need to be as included as the physical artists. So really learning that additional team that you now have access to and involving them and making sure that all the pre-pro is including them is how a smooth shoot happens.
What other questions do we have?
So my curiosity is, how much do you see in pre-production photo scan or like LiDAR, photogrammetry, NeRFs? Like, there's a lot of ways to capture an environment to save a lot of time and make pickups and things easier. Is that a widely adopted practice, or is the industry still figuring that out?
A little of both. So we certainly offer that and do it sometimes. A lot of times we're finding that we'll just start custom unless there's something highly like architectural that needs to be very specific. Many of ours that we're doing, living rooms and kitchens, it's actually faster for us to just build from scratch using either custom-made objects or marketplace. And then we get a little more customization for the client as well.
Yeah, we did have an inquiry recently from a corporate that asked whether they could scan some of the headquarters around the world. That they could then basically perform in the actual environment and have that stored on their archive, so they can dip in and just go, yeah, well, we've scanned those areas in the office. Every time we're performing, it looks like the exact place that people remember. But yeah, I think VAD and 3D is always like the first question you get when they come through the doors. They see it, they go, that's wicked, and then they go, okay, how do we get to that? How quickly can we get to that? And there are all the options. I think we've started telling people about that and explaining it to them. And I think once we have a good use case for it, I think more people would do it.
I'll say this, based on the caliber of each of your work, it's an honor for View to be able to partner with you guys. So y'all are doing great work. You're good people as well, and that's part of what makes for a really good collaborative environment. So thank you for your partnership. Thanks for being part of this panel this morning. Hopefully you guys got a good bit out of this. Thanks for joining us here at Virtual Production Central. We've got panels and talks going on for the rest of the day, so check out the schedule in the back. Thanks for being with us.